Garrett, I saw that Senator Jeff Merkley has just come out with a very strong statement in favor of a ceasefire. We're starting to see that becoming certainly from the more progressive end of the Democratic spectrum. How does this all impact the passage of a supplemental bill and the urgency to get this done before Christmas?
Well, Andrea laid out the point that this has become more complicated. It's a good sort of way to think about just how dysfunctional Congress has become when something like aid to Israel that's supported by probably 95% of members in both parties and in both chambers who all want to get it done and get it done urgently has become such a heavy lift. But I think what you're going to see now is the month of December almost entirely devoted into exactly how to get that aid plus aid to Ukraine across the finish line. From the House perspective, the Speaker has fired the first shot by passing that Israel aid bill that is, of course, linked to cuts to IRS funding. That's not going to go anywhere in the Senate, and it essentially forces the Senate to come up with a counteroffer. They're never particularly good at moving quickly. This is no exception. And the discussion on the Senate side right now is how do we attach border security policy changes and money to an aid bill to make it palatable enough to even send as a counteroffer back to the House. The tension now, I think, over the next month is going to be how do we kind of put enough, sugar on this pill to make it go down in either chamber for something that everybody wants to see done. Is the Israel aid alone enough to get that across the finish line, or is it going to take a much more convoluted process? Brian, I imagine you probably make the same bet I do here, which is bet on convoluted.
Yeah, it's always more convoluted, even when it doesn't need to be. But to your point, Garrett, it does seem as though the Speaker is really the key negotiator in this process, right? He's got to be the one to go to these Senate negotiators and say, this is the kind of package I'm willing to put on the floor, right?
Yeah, and he's also the most unknown operator here in all of this, which makes it a little bit more challenging if he doesn't be the one to kind of outline what he wants. He doesn't have a track record speaking for anyone other than Mike Johnson when it comes to trying to decide what could work here. The other problem is he simply may not know. Every other opportunity, the House conservative wing has proven how unruly they can be. They had to pull, I think, 3 funding bills off the floor at various stages over the last couple of weeks. What Johnson says might fly might not ultimately be what flies, which could lead you to on the other hand argument, Ryan, is it might be better for the Senate to just pass what they can pass and kind of go with a tale as old as time here. There's nothing more traditional in Washington around the holiday season than the Senate jamming the House on something. Now, with the spending bill out of the way, perhaps it's the supplemental on which the Senate leaves, coal at the footsteps of the House right before they leave town.
Yeah, and not to get too far into the weeds, but it's not just that easy for the Speaker to bring it to the floor because the Rules Committee is loaded with these conservatives, and so there's all these roadblocks along the way. So this is a much more complicated process, even if 90% of the Congress supports it. Garrett Haake, thank you so much for that report on Capitol Hill.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.